Too early again.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bill Neiman's Bogus Hangout. And have our guest introduce himself. Zara, would you start, please?
Hi, I'm Zara Altair, and I write semantic content.
Thomas?
Hi, I'm Thomas Sickle, and I am founder of Blueprint Marketing, and I'm on the advisory board of a fintech corporation.
Terry?
Terry Van Horn, Toronto, Ontario, retired.
Josh?
Doc Sheldon, Deep SEO Conference, and I'm supposedly retired since 2003, but that ain't worked out so well.
I'm Bill Slavsky of Carlsbad, California. I write at SEO by the Sea and the director of SEO research at GoFish Digital. So we were having a discussion about what's in images while we were still in the green room, and the fact that Google's now looking at text in photographs and EXIF data in photographs, and they're able to learn a lot more from those things. They were capable of doing that type of stuff 10 years ago. Chances are they weren't, but they may be now.
They have the ability to put it all together now too, and you can see the whole big picture. It just, at least part of the picture.
They can determine what are authoritative sites for businesses, and they can look at the photographs in those sites and read the EXIF data and see if they're taken at those places.
Or even see if they're duplicate stock photos, which in some cases would hurt the site if they're not modified.
Android 1 and Android 2.
Yep.
Yeah. Man looking at computer.
Yeah. Like person happy. Gotta love stock images. I'm embarking on a web design for a company I'm advising, and we've got so many beautiful designs. We crowdsourced it.
Yeah.
It's the only time I've ever done this where I've ever had too many good designs. It was like everyone was like, we don't care, literally. So it came down to, I had to pick. It was ridiculously good, but 99 Designs is getting very good, and so is Design Crowd. I didn't use them this time, but I think all the same artists go back and forth.
If you think about the fact that most people are now carrying around cell phones, mobile phones that have cameras in them, and if people are taking pictures, most people have libraries of photographs that can be used.
It's true. A great source of photography, as long as you slim down the size of the photo for the web, make it smaller than make it into WebP and make it under 100 kilobits if you can.
And it's fun teaching graphic designers how to optimize for the web by compressing photographs.
Absolutely.
Because it's the first thing they should learn at wherever they learn graphic design, but it's not.
That and SVGs. I'm so surprised. I've gotten so many sites that come with non-SVG images, and they're small little icons, and I'm like, come on, like make it an SVG. You're the designer, and they do it most of the time, but you wouldn't get it if you didn't ask. And I've gotten some images that, like the header, 2 or 3 megs. One time of 8 meg. Yep. I'm like, what the heck? Like, very big.
I had a coworker in 2005 who was big into SVGs and optimizing them.
They're very effective still to this day. I think that they're the best way to render a photograph on if they'll fit the size. There's size limitations, but if they will fit like an icon or something, they're superior to everything in my opinion. Though like WebP and AI, I don't know the acronym. It's another one that starts with an A. Are getting closer and closer. Hopefully they'll come out with something or use Apple's system that's even smaller than WebP, but probably not until Google okays it. Although they have a browser, or they do have a browser, just not very popular.
Yeah, I've found WebP to be problematic because there are still some browsers that don't render it worth a damn. There are even some servers that don't want to accept it. And I don't see much of a gain from it either, size-wise.
I'm in a host that will show WebP, and if your browser doesn't accept WebP, it'll show you the JPEG.
I like WebP because it's drastically smaller if it's optimized. If it's already shrunk already, like if you put it through Short Pixel or any tool that crushes the gets rid of the colors we can't see with our own eyes, that's a big win. You know, let's say you take a 500 kilobit and you make it down to 70, and then you make it into WebP, it might be 10 kilobits.
But there was a patent that came out a couple of weeks ago that talked about using EXIF data from photographs.
Yeah.
You get rid of when you losslessly compress photographs.
Mm-hmm.
You can, in some situations, you can save it, but you are right. Like if you do it with Adobe or some others, you can opt to save it. I think there are a few tools like Kraken allows you to save it with an option.
I think Photoshop does too.
Yeah, Photoshop, Adobe, and you know, like one of the tools I used to love, but I've kind of moved away from, was JPEG Mini. I love that you could just upload everything and have it, you know, crop it and everything, but the image quality was very, very high, but almost too. You could still shrink it using these other things on Glossy, on a Short Pixel, and things like that. But like I think WebP is a real blessing if it's served right.
Well, from what I see, images are still the thing that most site owners screw up on optimization of.
JavaScript images, yeah.
Yeah, they try to upload a 2.5 gigabyte image, or they don't size it right, or they'll be showing the same image in a thumbnail and a banner, and they'll upload it as the banner.
That happens a lot.
You have 100 pixel by 100 pixel profile image that's 16 megabytes.
Yeah, that's a little problematic.
Yeah.
That's why I hate to bring up reverse proxies again, but these reverse proxy systems like by Akamai, Cloudflare, Fastly, they all resize the photos on the fly and turn them into WebP or whatever the best format is, which is a great feature. And Cloudflare Cloud Ordinary does that too now, and I'm sure a few other companies.
You've got to give the people who have publishing to the web a little bit of education.
Yep. And Cloudflare is free, so if you want your images turned into WebP for free, you can use Cloudflare's free program. I like Fastly more, to be honest, and it's not free.
You can also just use an image source set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is probably a better implementation than going through Cloudflare.
Well, Edward Lewis would be happy with that because it verifies.
Yeah, don't get me started.
One thing I was extremely excited about with reverse proxies recently, gosh, okay, so you know, third-party JavaScript, how it's always been an issue. It's always slowed down sites if you put a lot of like whatever on your site. Well, it's all pre-rendered on all these reverse proxies now. Fastly and Cloudflare do it through a company. I'll put their name. And
you can do that on your web page yourself too.
But it's pre-rendered on the edge, so prior to your page loading. So in the reverse proxy, it's done, and then your page loads the correct way to the browser, and it doesn't have to render the JavaScript.
That should speed up the load a lot.
It does by like 40 to 80%. I'll send the link to the company that they purchased to do it, and it's just basically taking the power from the pops and using that to pre-render JavaScript.
So Google has determined again that 15% of the queries searches are new.
Yeah.
Do you think there's something about those searches that make them new? Like I searched for football this month, this year. It's probably a brand new search for Google, at least when I'm doing it. That's something people don't search for because I've appended the date to it,
Yeah.
which makes it a new query.
I would wonder too if they're doing a lot more query classification now than they used to, if that also, just changing the classification of a query is going to have an impact on whether they see it as new or prior.
Because there aren't 15% of brand new things in the world.
Well, it seems like a lot, doesn't it?
Every
A
year.
misspelling would be a fresh query, right?
A new spelling?
Misspelling.
Yeah.
Misspelling? Yeah.
Yeah.
And just time is an element that's not considered in that. It's something that people update for in queries.
Right. So when you do a specialized query, right, where you search within a date range, right, would that be a fresh query?
That would be a fresh query. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm surprised it's not higher than 15%.
Because the dates keep changing, Terry?
Well, no, because smart people search within a date. If I'm looking for code, especially, say for Bootstrap 5, I'm going to tell it, search between 2017 and now type thing, right? Because anything before that is other Bootstrap and it just screws up the search.
I see. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Same with misspellings. If they count each misspelling as a fresh query, then what if there's a misspelling, they see it the second time? Is it a fresh query or?
They may not count misspellings as new queries. They may count them as something that they correct.
Oh, okay.
I guess
So the first time they see it, it'd be a new query. Second time, no.
They would probably show a Q. Did you mean this?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So those are queries that they've seen more than once when they do did you mean this?
No, that may be a query that they've never seen before, but it may be similar to something they have seen before.
Okay.
So they may ask, did you mean this?
Oh, right. So they look at the query and say, oh, maybe it's a misspelling. And yeah.
If there's nothing for that query, I imagine they do. It would make sense.
You remember when Flickr first came out?
Which one?
Flickr.
Oh,
F-L-I-C-K.
The image hosting company.
It was a purposeful misspelling, and when you look for it, Google would ask you if you were misspelling something.
Right. Did you mean Flickr? All right. Did you mean Flicka, the horse?
Flicka, my friend.
Did you mean my friend Flicka?
Yeah, Flicka, just one of those short names that is oddly spelled and seems to work.
So how did the pirate penalty get its name?
Which one?
The pirate penalty.
Blackbeard? No. Spam, I'm assuming. I don't know though. I'm guessing.
They're stealing
No.
stuff from people. They're pirates.
A lot of booty.
Copyright infringement.
Yeah.
They're filing DMCA notices against people who haven't stolen content.
Is that what they're doing?
They're filing fake DMC notices.
Well, people do that. I've seen that where they filed against something that wasn't true.
Yep.
That was my thing. Jeez. No.
I've filed.
Hard for a
them.
thief to make an honest living these days, Thomas.
I know. Everyone's stealing my DMCs. I'm like, God. But yeah, no. Thank goodness for those things, though. They've been very helpful in the past with so many. I don't understand the idea behind stealing content like for like, identical content. I never understood it. But, well, I get it. I get what they're trying to do, but it just doesn't work.
Oh, I know people that can make that work. Don't we, Doc?
Mm-hmm. At least one.
At least one, yes.
Do you use a domain with do you use a very high page authority URL?
He said the PA word, Bill. Have him whipped.
Page rank. Page rank. It was a.
I'm going to be forgiving.
No,
At least he
just
didn't say
got-
domain authority.
I almost did it.
He didn't ask me to use LSI keywords.
Yeah, there you go.
One with high LSI keywords. No. Yeah, so is it a high page rank URL or a very popular URL that you can do this with?
No,
No.
Oh, okay.
he's a really smart guy who knows how to automate things. So he could take
Ah,
other people's copy and make it rank above them.
He can. This guy codes better in his sleep than most developers do wide awake.
wow.
Well, and he's got a big data base. Well, I ain't
Oh.
going to talk about what he does, but he's organized. He's been doing it for how long? Well, as long as I've known him, that's 15
He does.
years.
He does whatever the hell he wants to, Terry.
Yeah.
Where does a 900-pound gorilla sleep?
That's cool. So, how does everyone feel about, like, basically, how do you think the bot is affected by dynamic caching? You know, dynamic caching is supposed to make the bot render quicker, faster, and the regular user get a somewhat quicker view. But it's supposed to be quicker for the bot, which seems like it would be cloaking, but apparently it's not.
No, it's
Why
not.
would it be cloaking?
By the time a bot
You're
gets to a
serving two
page,
different.
by the time a bot gets to a page that's been dynamically rendered, the bot sees an HTML page. It has no idea that it's not a
Yeah.
static page.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't see where it make any difference whatsoever to the bot.
I have had clients who expected us to be able to optimize pages that changed as you visited them. Like you had to enter a zip code to get the page to render.
Oh yeah,
And
that makes
there
sense.
was a search engine wasn't grabbing the cookie and seeing a rendered page.
Now, what I would wonder is when crawl and index are not happening at the same time, whether dynamic pages create an issue there. Well, because I wonder is once it's been crawled, does the indexing process have any awareness of what to expect on that page? What was, let's say, the 17 outgoing links? that does it have any kind of a inventory on what to expect on that page? My guess is it would. In which case, if that has changed because of dynamic caching, or any dynamic page, I can see where that might cause an issue. Because to me, it makes sense that when it goes to index a page that was previously crawled, it would arrive knowing what to expect. Doesn't that make sense to you, Bill?
Yes. Or sorry, that makes sense.
There was a way of updating pages so that content on pages changed on a regular basis, like advertisements.
Yeah.
And a search engine would sometimes crawl a page and then come back 2 minutes later and recrawl the page and see what changed. And if the links to ads changed, it would know those were transient URLs. And they were likely advertisements.
Yep. That's one of the ways Google finds ads on a page, is because they remember where every link is on a page. What was the anchor text? They know when you change it.
They've got memories like elephants.
You do.
Yeah.
So, if that's my mom, tell her I'm not here. So, what are your thoughts on page speed for navigation, like pre-rendering or not what am I saying? Basically, preloading, yeah, navigation.
Well,
For
for
mobile,
most
primarily.
sites, I would expect it's not going to have a major impact. But if you're one of these idiots who's got 412, deep, 4-layer deep, massive menus, I guess it might make a significant difference.
Yeah.
I think that one thing everyone needs to learn is the deeper the page, the farther from the home page, the worse off that page will probably perform.
If you're an SEO and you don't already know that, you got a lot of reading to do.
Yep.
A lot. I wouldn't even call you an SEO.
I bet you could think of something to call them, though.
Yeah, like Poser or a few others. I mean, this is before you even go into business. You should already know. That's why I'm starting to get annoyed by some of the questions. They just shouldn't be answered. Not by Google or someone at Google. It's below them. It's like a mockery of the industry. Look at how stupid these guys are. Why are you paying them?
I agree. If you're paying somebody that doesn't know that, but someone's got to learn. People
right, they work for someone else, or they do something else before they start charging.
Yeah.
I try to be tolerant of stupid, innocent, SEO 101 questions, but some of them just defy any desire to be nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't know that, when you put, links deeper into the site that they're going to pass less equity, then, you aren't ready to be paid by someone to do SEO. You should be working for someone who's showing you these things.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Nope.
That's an assumption which has exceptions.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Well, I know I had a client a couple of years ago that had, I think it was like 180 some links in their top nav, all these drop down boxes, and I said, well, first of all, this has got to go. There's no reason to link from this to that blog post. You know, if that blog post has any relevance, it's one thing, but you've lost any relevance in that flow, and you're just degrading it. And he says, yeah, but I heard that since most links come in on the home page, that you want to link to every page on your site from the home page in order to get all. I said, no. And it was like a 3-week uphill battle to get this guy to understand. Even to get him, you remember when the Google first made the change, Bill, when they said, okay, if you've got 9 outbound links, each one of these links is going to get a 1/9 of the equity, okay, maximum. Yet, before that, with the sculpting...
Matt Cutts published something that said that was when Google was still on paper.
Yeah.
Then they started trying to implement it, and it changed.
Yeah, because originally that's what gave birth to PageRank sculpting, was the fact that you could no-follow 3 or 4 of those links and increase the flow to some of the other links. And they killed that by saying, nope, if there's 9 links, you can no-follow 8 of them, and you're still going to get a maximum of 1/9 of that equity on any one link. And I couldn't even get him to understand that.
Yeah,
and I finally ended up firing him as soon as he was 4 days late on an invoice. I canned his ass. And breathed an audible sigh of relief.
I was an in-house SEO, and we were working with a site that had one page that had a program on it that people linked to, external links pointing specifically to that page. So a page isn't made up only of internal links.
Oh, no.
You do have our site isn't made up of only internal links. You do have some pages that gain external page rank through links from elsewhere. And this page had a higher page rank according to this Google toolbar than the homepage did, because that was an exception to the homepage gets most links.
I think that, it's smart to have your most important pages or that are then subtopics for the rest of your site. So if you're going to be speaking about machine learning, you can have a subtopic be a category of...
That page was a higher page rank, but it had no topic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
To the other pages. It was a currency converter.
Yeah.
But it got lots of links. Yeah.
It got lots of links. There were lots of other sites that found the programming of the currency converter too hard to do on their own, so they just linked to the one we had.
I know a guy who's got an event calendar that he publishes that he keeps pretty much up to date, and it gets linked to a lot. Because every year he updates it with next year's conferences, and people link to it a lot. And he's got, I'd love to know what his page rank really is, but I can guarantee you that's the highest ranked page on his site.
I can tell you, I'm building a site right now, and one of the things that we're going over, because it's in the financial sphere, is calculators and all sorts of things that people will use in everyday life and be helpful to them. And those things are link magnets, and they help users.
Yeah, not as much anymore. If there's a really converter that's used a lot, guess where you find it? On Google. I haven't used a currency converter in years.
Enough.
I just go to Google. If I want to know an RGB, I just go to Google. It's all right there in the search.
But this is more complex things. If you invest into a 529 plan, what is the outcome if your kid is 2 years old now and you intend on them going to college at 18, 16 years, and you can actually put the actual school in, and then it will show you the unbelievably high cost.
Yeah, there's lots of sites doing that already. Good luck, Ray.
Thank you. But our site is kind of it's pointed to that to people that would already be doing that. So it's a good fit, in my opinion.
There are people who make tools and put them on their site, hoping that they'll get lots of links. And those don't always materialize.
No.
Yep. Been there, done that. You have to pick one where there's not, 10 sites already doing it.
No, I agree, but I'll share after the show because I don't want to say too much about this publicly. But like I'll explain why it's unique. But I think when you guys see it, you'll understand. But one thing I can say that I'm shocked. I'm 43 years of age, right? To go to college at a private university in the United States now is if you were just born now would be approximately $800,000 according to
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, just for 4 years, just for undergrad
Yeah.
with room and board. Sorry, I had the number in my head from when I was in school, and for some reason I obviously knew it changed. I didn't think it changed that much.
Yeah, the prices are just, I don't know. When I moved to Southern California in 2004, there was a big billboard on a nearby corner. This is 2004. This isn't even today. And it said, starter homes, only $900,000 and up.
Starters.
Starters.
Start your bankruptcy
No
early.
idea what they cost now. I was like, whoa.
My sister went to college in 1962. Got her associates, then bachelor's, then her master's. And my dad was blown away that she had run up $38,000 total cost through her master's. Now, that'll get you about a third of the way through a semester in a junior college.
Semester, yep.
Yeah, that'll get you lunch and books. That's
my daughter went to med school down here, and she paid for her 5-year med school what a semester would have cost her at Stanford.
Wow.
Yeah. I finished paying off college 2 months before I graduated.
You peddling drugs, eh?
Yeah,
You're that or selling your body, one or the other.
I took advantage of the way they were set up classes. You could
Doing
take
both?
you could go part time and take full time summer sessions and full time winter sessions,
Yeah.
and take
Ah.
a full
That
year's
co-op.
worth of classes at a cut rate price.
Nice.
Work 6 months and then go to school for 6 months. They called that co-op here. Yeah, I can't believe the cost. Like, if you went to university, for marketing, right? It would take you 10 years in your career before you pay the money off to learn the trade.
At least.
But if you
earning 6 credits for the 6 weeks of winter session, and 6 credits for the 12 weeks of summer session, and 6 credits for each of the semesters.
if you get an MBA today, you'll make approximately, from one of the top 30% schools, you make approximately anywhere from 150 to 170 median, and that seems to be, aside from some other specific degrees, obviously, one of the best ways to make sure that you have a decent income when you come out of school. From everything I've read about it, like it's really interesting how the school loan system allowed people to, nothing wrong with philosophy or anything like that, or certain subjects that obviously didn't have a reasonable amount of pay, not even close to pay off their student debt.
But some degrees resulted in better grades in graduate school. Like,
of course, yeah,
lawyers the people who got philosophy degrees tended to become the best lawyers.
Yeah, I was about to say there. I almost didn't want to say philosophy degrees because I know there's a bunch of like Google's hiring philosophers now too. So I mean, but like art history, I guess. I don't know, something that poetry, something that's beautiful but not high paying.
Male modeling.
It's really hard. I know in or as my kids call it, the olden days, when I first went to college and graduate school, I worked and paid everything myself, but the fees were nominal, as it were, and an expensive textbook was $25, not 20. Yeah, so
Well, bookmark will cost you that now.
yeah, I know. So then I went back to graduate school, a just total different field, Pacific Basin Studies, political and economic assessment. And I was a graduate fellow, and I also got a student loan for a semester, and all of a sudden I was $20,000 in debt. And my goal at that time was to go into international banking. And so I did all these informational interviews, and I was right outside San Francisco. So I went to all these international banks and, did informational interview as the eager beaver graduate student, and they said, okay, well, if you want to go into international banking, you start at the bottom, and maybe after 5 years, you can transfer into international banking, maybe. And I thought, and at that time, the pay rate was $28,000 a year, starting out in banking, and I was already $20,000 in debt for one semester, and I went, this is crazy, and meanwhile they're telling me you have to go be the, presidential intern. I said I don't want to go to Washington D.C. I'm not a political animal. So I just dropped out. I loved it. It was super interesting. I did original research. Well, it didn't seem financially feasible to be saddled with this huge debt if I continued,
It was
working
built
at
for somebody who,
$27,000 a year. That just didn't make any sense to me.
it's a career that was built for somebody rich already.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Well, like I mean, if
Or at
you're,
least whose daddy is. Yeah.
Whose
Yeah.
daddy is, yep.
I think like if you're a CFP or a CPA or CFA, if you're all those things, your income will grow very rapidly over time. It won't you won't the first couple of years, like you said, will be slow. But like people don't start like international banking, like international business degree, and then with a focus on banking or finance is a great degree. I think like investment banker takes years to become one of them,
Yep.
but it pays well when
Yeah.
you get there.
I think you should get educated in Canada and go and work in the United States.
There you go.
I have a friend that
There you
went
go.
to McGill, and he went in a communist, like not like a hardcore communist. Came out. He works for the World Bank now. He's a hardcore capitalist.
No, Quebec will do that to you.
I got a quick one for you. You talk about the price of textbooks, Sarah.
Yeah.
A friend of mine's son went to school. It just started last year at UCSD, and physics course he had to take. He got lucky. He signed on with the professor he was really hoping to get, who's got a lot of theoretical physics background.
Uh-huh.
The textbooks for that one semester was one textbook, $475. And the professor stipulated you had to buy a new book. You could not go to the student union and buy.
You couldn't get a used book?
You could not get a used book. It had to be a new book.
He doesn't want you stealing the notes.
Oh.
Yeah, he didn't want you to steal because the notes in
Oh,
there
come
might give
on.
away something. Can you believe that? 475 books for a textbook you're going to use for a semester? And
Well,
this was the only professor that stipulated that text. So now the book union doesn't even want to buy the goddamn things from you at the end of the semester because they can't sell them because nobody's allowed to buy them.
Nobody's allowed to buy them. Oh my
He's
God.
the only one that teaches that course with that textbook.
That's insane.
I
Yeah.
wonder if he's the author.
No, but
Yeah.
books that are
No.
published
That was a
as,
question I asked, Terry.
textbooks come like that too, because one year my daughter told me she wanted The Normans in Sicily for her birthday. Okay, that was the book she wanted, right? Somebody somewhere had that book as a textbook. So even the paperback was $425.
Jeez.
And I said, I really want to get this for you, but I just can't afford it. And finally I found it I'm searching every known book searching place, and I found it for her. And then I guess they removed it from the list because a year later the
Oh.
price had gone down to, normal obscure history book prices, but not $425.
Wow.
But that's somebody had listed that as required reading. But
that's why my favorite book's always been the one you can sell back to the bookstore for money.
Well, sure. Buy it used and resell it back to them. Yeah.
yeah, but if you buy the original price is $425, and then all of a sudden it's like buying anything,
They
the
changed the
price
entire
goes
market.
down, and you want to resell it.
I took an undergraduate English degree, which meant I was reading books that were 400 years old by people like William Shakespeare,
Right?
Yeah.
and they were 50 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He won't sue you for the copyright stuff anymore.
And that was 100 times higher than they had been when it was first published back in the.
I know that, like, gosh, a few of the books. I took an IT class at undergrad at Rollins, and the guy was teaching software that was 4 years old, and threatened to fail me on a verbal test when I handed it in after. I won't get into the whole thing; it'll make me too upset. But for 3 or more spelling or grammar errors, and then it said NUFF said, no complaining. NUFF said, and I said, I don't know what that means. It's not a word. So, like, the guy.
It's a proper spelling in Marvel comic books.
Yeah, but if you're a professor of IT and you want to say to your class, hey, you know what? You guys pay up, and not just pay up, but you guys have to deal with all these issues, or basically you have to get your spelling and grammar exactly how I believe spelling and grammar should be performed, and you don't even put a word that's not in the dictionary on there on your syllabus. No. I was like, this is not going to happen here. But then it turned out not to work out so well for me, honestly. But but honestly, the guy was, I'm kind of happy it did, because the guy was teaching 4-year-old stuff. And that's the biggest issue of all, I think, is when people are taught things that are just not relevant and not important to what's happening in the real world at the time.
Well, that's the case, I think, in the 90% of the digital marketing courses across the country. That's exactly what you're looking at. You're talking about information that was current back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And is sadly out of date by the time this poor kid even got to the class, much less graduated.
It's wrong in every sense of the word. Like, it's really messed up that they allow it to happen at all.
Some years ago, I had a conversation with the chair of a university in, I forget what it's in India, one of the large universities in India, and he said that was a problem with they have a lot of SEO courses, and SEM courses and, PPC, that sort of thing, that the vast majority of them are being taught by people that studied in the United States working for some agency 9 years ago. And while they were working there, they wrote a book, came back and published it in India, got it picked up, used it as a textbook in their own class, and it's 12-year-old information. Well, my God, with Google, how much has changed in 12 years? Everything.
I can't even imagine what an SEO course is like today. It must be very unique. I mean, when I was in undergrad, they didn't teach search. There was marketing courses, but they just taught IT.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I was the only one in the class with a Mac learning Microsoft Access or something. I was like, oh, this is the worst.
No Lotus 123?
Access came after 123.
Access was he's telling us how helpful this is going to be in our lives, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is not going to make a difference at all. But hey, and I've never used Access, but
I have, and I hope to avoid ever using it again.
Yeah, me too.
I use Access all the time. Not to program it as well.
is it
I
helpful?
build applications using Access.
I built a database on carrying concealed deadly weapons in Delaware using Access.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's really quite simple if you understand a little bit of Microsoft programming.
Well, the thing I liked when I was using it, the thing I liked about it was you could zip through all the data really quickly compared to anything else that was available at the time.
Yeah, once you get it set up properly, it's a nice poor man's database handler. I mean, you can do a lot with it. But learning how to set it up properly turned to be more challenging than I expected.
Yeah, it takes a bit of time to figure it all
It
out.
takes time to set it up, but once it's there,
The problem was would you want to learn Access from literally, I'm not kidding at all, 4 years ago? Than when you're like the 4-year-old version?
Oh, I was doing that in the 90s.
I made up a whole slew of new curse words when I was doing it.
Yeah, I was doing it in the 90s too.
I mean, it'd be like signing up for a Prodigy course. That's what it felt like
Microsoft Publisher.
Exactly. Publish as webpage. Yeah.
Dreamweaver, I taught that piece of crap.
But how much better was that than Publisher, though, Terry? 3 times better.
A lot, yeah.
I used Front Page right up until they stopped making it. Changed it to SharePoint.
I liked Front Page. The one thing I liked about Dreammaker was the fact that you could actually see it. You could see a visual representation of the page without having to play around.
Dreamweaver, you mean?
I'm sorry, Dreamweaver. That was a nice feature to it that you didn't have with Front Page.
The side code and then the
Yeah.
It didn't compile for you?
It was based on Adobe, though. It was set up kind of like Photoshop. So they started me out teaching that, and by the end of it, I had everyone on Front Page.
You traitor! Oh, Lordy. I don't know if you remember, Terry, when you and I first met on the forum. You remember they had that one forum on the board of submit your design, your page, and let people take it apart. And you and Steve, that was the day I met you and Steve the first time. I threw this piece of shit I had built on Publisher up there, and both of you were with me and knew. And Steve did it much more subtly than you did, but hey, you were cruel and unkind and absolutely correct. It was a piece of shit. But,
I'm just forward. I don't beat around the bush. I just say it how I think it is.
I recall flipping burgers coming up in the conversation.
Oh yeah,
Oh man.
I must have been too impressed then.
Well, it wasn't much to be impressed with. That was funny though. I didn't expect anybody was going to be singing the praises because I wasn't all that impressed with it either. But I was kind of tickled that I'd actually managed to sit down and figure out the program and do something once.
I must have given you some positive stuff like that. You could have done better.
You said the
Oh,
McDonald's was down the street.
you gave me a list of a dozen things that were wrong with it. Yeah.
But didn't tell you how to fix them. I usually at least include that too.
Yeah, I don't recall all of it. I think I may have saved it on one of my old hard drives. It was an interesting and informational thread.
I'll tell you kind of what's wrong, and then I expect you to go figure it out. And that's only because that's how I learned. And I think that's the best way to learn is.
Well, I do remember one of your recommendations was if you still have Publisher on your computer, get rid of it. If you can't get rid of it, get rid of the computer. Oh Lordy. And that was back in the mid to late 90s, I think.
Yeah, it might have been a little bit. I forget when, because I was in a few different forums, and then I got kicked out of all those. And WebPro was where I they didn't mind the way I talked.
Yeah, I think it was WebPro World. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where. Yeah.
Kind of sad that it's gone because I know an awful lot of the young kids. That's where I learned a lot by following around guys like you and Steve, And now there's very few places. V7N's gone. Dave was there. Yep. Yeah, it's where do they go now?
Yeah. I think Steve still works with Cranky sometimes.
Well, they're neighbors now.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, he sold him a house just right down the road. I say sold it. I'm not sure if he sold it or leased it to him, but they had the place that they bought when they first got there while they were building.
Oh,
that's where Dave and Vicky are living now, and it's just down the road a mile with that.
Yep, William Cross was on there as well.
Yeah, I remember that vividly.
Yeah, he's a character.
Well, that's unfair to characters.
It's mean to Mickey Mouse. So, what do you guys think in terms of site speed? Okay, in site redesigns, right? When you're building a new site, if you make minor alterations to URL structure, I'm talking about like maybe less than 10% of the URLs, and you redirect, of course, and you check everything. Do you think there's going to be any real difference if the content's identical?
I think it depends on what kind of changes you're talking about. If you're just changing the wording if you're just changing the wording in the URL is one thing, but if you're deleting a category, for instance, I think it has a greater impact because now you've affected the architecture.
Yep.
I think that's going to have a much greater impact.
Exactly what I was thinking as soon as I said it.
But if using redirect, you lose about 15%.
That's not true anymore, though. I don't think.
Yes, it is. I read it just the other day.
I heard it was. I recall it used to be about 10%, but that's a few years back.
Someone asked how much. I forget what it was, but John said it's 15%. Gave someone from Google.
Not a chain, but like actual, just a regular redirect.
Oh, it was chaining. It was chaining. Every link does that, by the way, not just a redirect. Every link.
Oh, it's a chain. Okay, yeah.
So in a chain, you could actually use up all the.
Yeah, chains.
Oh yeah, you could lose it all. Yeah.
Chains are the worst. But like regular redirects, like a 1-2, that's okay, right?
Well,
It's
you
gonna
still
lose some, but
you get some dilution. You know, you're going to lose some of it.
you know
Yeah.
what I
Right.
do, man?
Historically, there's always been some type of dampening.
Sure, it has to be.
Yeah, there is. It's 15% on anything.
There has
Redirect
to
or
be, because
otherwise.
it's the way that PageRank works. If they
Right.
didn't have that, it would not function.
You could almost call it like leakage from it.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing that, Thomas, I don't necessarily redirect them all. If it doesn't rank and isn't part of the funnel, sales funnel, it gets rewritten and try to rank it. No point. That's
A
just
new-
useless content.
As
Same
a
if
new
it's
piece of
not
content.
indexed. If it's not indexed, I'd rewrite it. I wouldn't bother redirecting it.
And 410, the old URL.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
there's some advantage to that. You know.
Oh, huge advantage to redirecting the old. Yeah,
Well, you're removing content that's absolutely useless, right? If it doesn't rank, it isn't part of the sales funnel, and they're not indexing it, what's it good for?
let's say the URL structure is absurdly long. Like let's say it's just like reading War and Peace. It's like it's way too long of a URL. So you just want the content to be identical, but you want the URL to be much shorter. So you just shorten up the URL.
I would do a 301 personally
Yeah.
in that kind of situation.
Yep. Then everything should stay the same, in my opinion. Once it's
One
indexed.
thing I have noticed, an unbelievable number of not just site owners, but even so-called SEOs, when they make a change, they'll add a redirect and not look to see if there was already a redirect in place, if that
Right.
URL had already been
That's how
changed.
change happens.
Exactly. You know, and I found one on an audit here just a few weeks ago that had 6 301s chained.
Yeah.
Originally the site was put up and it was indexed, okay, with the old backslash, you know, R-R3 equals 3012 was the, you know, because they didn't have any title per se. And then they put a title in there, and then they didn't like the way it was worded, so they changed it. They redirected it, and this last one he had done was the 6th one. And, you know, at that point now, you know, if it had any equity, kiss it goodbye.
I had
Yeah.
a chance to work with a Fortune 40 company, and it had redirect chains 8 levels deep.
Good Lord.
Their idea of doing SEO was to hire SEOs, and they would hire SEOs who would replace stuff. Like, we need a FAQ page. Let's put it here.
Redirect,
It'll
no
be
problem.
different than the other FAQ page we did before.
Oh man.
And they would redirect these things 8 times.
Good Lord, that's
Oh,
unreal.
man.
It's
That's
cruel and
crazy.
unusual. Like you can't be like, yeah.
I
if
wouldn't
you're-
give an SEO access to the hidden access if they were doing that.
if you're doing SEO like that, yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like you should get your
Burgers.
yeah, you should get in trouble. Like to say the least. Like that's insane.
They had the SEOs doing this stuff, turning it over to developers who work for the company.
Mhm.
So somebody was in charge of this whole mess. But
But
once
you'd run an audit first, right? You'd run like a crawler, and then you'd look.
they weren't my customer. I didn't want them.
Oh, of course, yeah. If it's not,
No.
The CEO of the company wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed.
No,
Yeah,
thank
you wouldn't want it.
Too short.
Don't want any part of that one, man.
I mean, they were ranking on page 1 in Google for their name, and it was a customer service person falling asleep at the job at somebody's house.
what?
And they were fine with they had a production company. They were making videos, and their customer service person was out ranking all the videos they were making. They were making videos with people like Bruce Springsteen, and Springsteen could not rank the customer service guy falling asleep. boy, I really want to work for them.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, that.
Hmm.
That's about an hour there, Billy.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. Take care.
Bye
Thanks,
all.
everyone.
Bye all.